Okay, hey everybody, I think we are live now. Hopefully you can hear my voice. Sometimes the audio is a little bit off in the beginning. And so welcome to this Intermittent Fasting live Q&A. We have some questions that people have already submitted, but if you have a question about intermittent fasting, we have some questions for weight loss, or walking 6 miles a day, or anything else that you can think of, let me know. And put it in the live chat, and I will answer your questions. Just to let you know who I am, in case this is your first time seeing one of my lives. My name is Kayla. I've lost 80 pounds with intermittent fasting, mostly doing Omad, which is one meal a day, and I also walk 6 miles a day. Omad, which is and I also walk now in the 140s since about 2018, and so my highest confirmed weight was 222.2 pounds. I was probably a little bit higher than that because I refused to weigh for a really long time after I had my third child. So that's a little bit about me. Also, in case you need more help with your weight loss journey, I've got 2 books that I've written. The first one is The Laid Back Guide to Intermittent Fasting. I finally got to hold these in my hand. For a while we were doing full-time RVing, and I didn't have a permanent physical location, so I've got these in my hand. This is my second book. This is more about the hard parts of weight loss, overcoming weight loss obstacles. That's got some stuff about maintenance too, and the challenges you might face there, and how to overcome them. So I want to say thank you to my husband, JR. He is in the chat right now. Are you as 6 miles to supper right now, or are you as JR? So he's he's in there as 6 miles to supper, but his name is JR. He's my husband of 16 years now? Yeah, 16 years. So thank you, Jay, for doing that. And so also I'm a financial coach, and so I help people with budgeting and things like that. My husband and I are leading a class called Financial Peace University. If you are right now having money problems, like if you're in debt, there's this guy named Dave Ramsey. He's got a thing called Financial Peace University, and it changed our life and our marriage many years ago. Really, that was the beginning of my weight loss journey. When I really start to see things in hindsight, I mean, I was obese and we were deeply in debt, and those things were very much tied together. We got out of debt, but I was still obese, and then I learned a lot from that process, and that's a lot of how I was able to lose weight. I've just transferred those skills over. So thank you guys. Be sure to put your questions in the chat box, and we'll get to them. So let's start off with the first question, which is, hi Kayla, I started intermittent fasting nearly 6 weeks ago, and I've only lost 8 pounds, which seems slow. I'm doing a 24, which means 20 hours of fasting, 4 hours of eating, which I've done from the get-go. Earlier in the year, I had a gastric balloon, but after 4 weeks, I had to have it removed as I was constantly sick, and I lost 28 pounds. Do you think my slow weight loss might be due to my body holding onto my weight due to the earlier trauma? I'm glad of the loss, and I love this as a lifestyle, but I still have 40 pounds to go. And that's from Joyce, from Coventry, England. So great question, Joyce. I want to say, you're doing fantastic. You've lost 8 pounds in 6 weeks. That's fast, actually. I know a lot of people get, frustrated because so many people out there will try to make it sound like, oh, you can lose 5 pounds a week for forever. Like, people a lot of times will brag, like, oh, I lost 5 pounds this week or whatever. What you're not hearing is that they're not losing 5 pounds every single week. They maybe lost 5 pounds one week, but then the next, week they lost 0 pounds, or maybe they went up a pound, and then the next week, it goes down. People just don't really talk very much about when their weight loss stalls out. 1 to 2 pounds a week is a sustainable pace. It's very common for people to lose about a pound a week. That's the rate I lost from when I went from 222 down to 157. That was my first kind of like bout with weight loss. I lost at the rate of about a pound a week. It was maybe like 1.1 pounds or something like that, but it was very, very slow. And the thing is, I was okay with that because I was in a really big hurry in 2015 I was wanting to lose 5 pounds a week, and I was like, this isn't fast enough. I would, you know, like start losing a pound a week and think that's not good enough, and then I'd quit doing what I was doing that was actually working and go try this other thing and make it really complicated. And by the end of the year, I looked around, I was like, I only lost like 15 pounds this year. And so then I realized, like, if I had just been happy with that pound a week, then I would have lost a lot more weight by now, because there's 52 weeks in a year, right? So if you can figure out how to lose a pound a week, then you will have lost 52 pounds in a year. And so at the rate you're currently losing at, if you can sustain that, then you'll be done in like, what, 9 months? Is that about right? I mean, if you give yourself a year, that, you know, is very doable at your current rate. Now, remember, though, I just want to make this clear. As you get down to the normal BMI, most people find that it really does slow down, because, you know, your body's getting to a healthy weight. It doesn't really need to lose weight at that point. So just kind of keep that in mind. When I went from 157 down to like 142, then that was I lost a third of a pound a week, 1/3 of 1 pound a week. So it was pretty slow. But I mean, I got there, but it was something where I just had to say, okay, it's going to take a really long time. So it like basically took like a year to lose that next bit of weight. And so there you go. So hopefully that helps you, Joyce. Okay, next question. What do you do when you want to eat, but it's not time yet? How do you distract yourself? Well, that is a great question, because I think that's probably the big thing, right? That it's different. When you're doing intermittent fasting, the one rule is just don't eat. And you have to be stubborn. You have to be so stubborn and just say, I'm not eating right now. So that's not an option. It's not an option on the table. So what can I do? And the big thing for me, especially in the early days, was stay busy. So just stay super duper busy. Knock out your to-do list. We all have things that we procrastinate on, or at least I do. Like right now I can tell you, like I need to clean up my bathroom. I need to vacuum the floors. I've got like so many other things that I could do if right now I was just wanting to get busy and do something. So that really helps. For me, one thing that really helped was to get steps in. So like I had a step goal each day of 14,000 steps. And so when I would feel hungry, I would ask myself like, okay, well, do you have your steps in yet? And no, I don't. So I would go and walk and do that instead of procrastinating on my steps, which that took me a while. A lot of times I would procrastinate on my steps. It would be like midnight. And I mean, I was like getting my 14,000 step at the stroke of midnight. But when I started to see like, oh, I'm just procrastinating during the day, then I would start getting those things accomplished. So also do fun things like read. Well, not everybody thinks reading is fun, but I do. Or draw, or do art, or do little home improvement projects around your house. Pick up a hobby or go volunteer somewhere. I mean, like, fill up your life with things other than food. And that's pretty much what I did. I learned American Sign Language. You can learn for free online. There's so many, like anything you want to learn, you can learn online, usually for free. So those are things that help me. Connecting with people also. A lot of times there's like this connection between kind of you're lonely and sometimes you eat because you're lonely. So connect with your friends and family, you know, call your parents or call your sister or call your brother or your friends, and just keep connecting and keep yourself busy. Okay, let's see. So yeah, but it really does come down, you're right, to distracting yourself. And I will say though, like what can happen is there can be issues that need to be dealt with, and this was something that like really there were certain things that I didn't really deal with until probably last year. So it was like a while, and I was keeping myself really busy, and last year I had just more time to kind of get space and silence, and I realized like, wow, I'm still dealing with some things, or sometimes it was even things I didn't even realize I was still struggling with and dealing with. So sometimes distraction can be taken too far. You know, like if you find yourself not feeling comfortable sometimes with just being at rest and being still and thinking your thoughts, then perhaps there's something else to dig into there. But keeping busy in the beginning certainly is a great way to simply not eat during your fasting window. Okay, let's see. LW Crafts asked, why are comments disabled on your videos? Great question, and thanks for asking. So back when I first started this channel, I read and responded to every single comment, and it was great. And I will say the vast majority of comments are positive and they're very encouraging, and I loved seeing those. And I in some ways I really miss seeing, because people would comment like how much weight they had lost, and they would comment like about what helped them and things like that. But there's also the dark side of YouTube comments, and those are the things, the ugly things that people say, and that maybe if you were watching my videos and you were looking in the comment section, maybe never saw them, because I did a really thorough job of like deleting and blocking negative comments, but I still had to read them. And I'm a really sensitive person. I just am. Like, hi, my name's Kayla, and I'm sensitive, and I cry easy. And so I started to feel every time I went into the comment section, because as the channel grew, I got more and more comments, and that's a really great thing, but it means that there's a lot more negativity. And so what started to happen, it was like every day I felt like when I would go into the comment section, it was like getting kicked in the stomach. And I had this realization one day, like, if I keep doing this, I'm gonna delete my channel and I just won't make videos about this anymore. And so instead of having that binary thinking, which is, like, either I can have a YouTube channel or with comments and stuff, or I can just delete the channel, which is, back in the day, that's kind of how my mind used to work. But I realized, okay, I've got options. And one of the options that I had at my disposal was to turn off comments. And I did that. In addition to just negative comments about me, because there were. But another thing that was really frustrating was I would have people on, they would do their success story, which I think is really helpful for people. But people would say these nasty things to the guest. I mean, people who didn't even have a YouTube channel, that just came on out of the goodness of their heart. And I just couldn't take that. And so this is why I do these lives, so I can still interact and take questions and things like that. But I just couldn't. I felt like it was the net positive or the net negative outweighed the positive. So there you go. So that's why they're not on there. Let's see. Hope I'm getting this name right. Lanika B. Says, I have wanted to try this for a while, but I'm so scared that it's going to ruin my metabolism and my body's going to go into starvation mode and I'm going to put on more weight. I was right there with you. That was my big fear with intermittent fasting. I thought, your body's going to go into starvation mode. I mean, like, I had that thing rammed in my head constantly, because I've been dieting my whole life, right? And so I thought, no, they say like you gotta be eating every couple hours, because that's what revs your metabolism, and if you go too long, like if you feel hungry, then you've waited too late to eat, and so your body's gonna go in starvation mode. And I was just convinced that was what was gonna happen. But eventually, I just started to think, I don't know if I really buy into that, because I've really tried to, eat frequently. And what happened to me was I was gaining weight. I mean, and I got to the point where I was obese, and I kind of thought, well, gee, obviously my metabolism isn't that great right now, or, it's not like this is helping the situation. So I thought, so I'll try it. And I did read some stuff that's, look, scientific studies and everything like that. You can pretty much find whatever you want to find. Like, if you want to go search for, will intermittent fasting hurt my metabolism, you will find evidence. And if you want to go and find evidence that says intermittent fasting will improve your metabolism, you'll find that evidence too. So many scientific studies, they find different things. And so basically, I just said, I'm going to try it for myself, see how my body reacts. And so then, I've been doing intermittent fasting, practicing it consistently. Everything from, I would say in 2015 I was doing 16-8 was the longest I think I would go. I usually kept it under 14 hours, because I had heard like, oh, if you're a woman, you shouldn't fast longer than 14 hours, which I found that to also not be true for me. But anyway, so I've been doing that since 2015. So, and this is 2020 at this point. And I'm here. I've been able to maintain the weight loss, which I think is usually the hardest part. Well, traditionally for me, that was always the hardest part, is the keeping it off. And I don't feel like I have a super hard time with that either. Like, I don't feel like, oh, my metabolism is slow, has slowed it down. I do think I probably have a slower metabolism, or I gain weight really easily. So, but yeah, so I would recommend, if you're really interested in like the scientific kind of stuff behind intermittent fasting, check out Dr. Jason Fung. He's an actual medical doctor. I am not a medical doctor, so check out his stuff. He's got some stuff on intermittent fasting and metabolism. Okay.
I linked to it.
Oh, and Jay has linked to it in the chat. So there we go. Okay, next question. Hi there. I'm starting up fasting again after a year, and I want to do Omad with 20 to 24 hours between meals. But it is hard to do this day after day. Do you recommend alternating between Omad and shorter fasts, like maybe like a 16-hour fast? Also, for weight loss, is consistent fasting over a long period of time the best thing to focus on, as opposed to lots of workouts, low carb diet, etc.? So I will take your last question first, which I would say yes, in my opinion, 100%. The thing to focus on is be consistent with intermittent fasting. That's what I did. I eat all the food. I do not eat low carb at all. If anything, I'm high carb because I like rice and beans. Typical week of meals, things like for supper, rice and beans, spaghetti. We're a family of 5 on a budget. So like carbs are cheap. And that was when I was figuring out like how am I going to eat. I really just wanted to eat normal food. I did not want to have to go on any kind of special diet. I wanted to eat what my family was eating. I didn't want it to cost an arm and a leg. So there you go. Now to go back, you said it's hard to do day after day, that 20 to 24 hour fasting. And in 16-8, I will say, I agree with you. 16-8 is much easier on your life as far as just, it fits, like you can pretty much have, lunch and supper. You just skip breakfast basically, right? And that fits really a lot easier in most people's lives, I think. I did Omad, and I've been experimenting some with doing 2 meals a day, which is basically a 16-8. What I have found is that it does seem a lot more normal when you're doing 2 meals a day. Just, to be able to eat with your family and whatnot. We're all 5 in our house, so like we homeschool and we work from home and everything. So it's, we're all here all the time, and doing Omad, it's a little bit isolating and stuff. So I would say it depends on what works well for your life, but you are already saying it's hard. And I say, if something feels hard for you, don't force yourself into that. If you find that a 16-8 works well in your life, so in other words, it's like, yeah, I can do that. I can like not eat breakfast. Maybe that's your thing. Practice that. And if you find the scale isn't moving, then focus on eating slower, being like having no distractions at all, and then probably not snacking. Snacking for me was always usually linked, I would say, to emotional eating. So eat more at the meals, but don't eat in between meals, and see how that works for you. It's just that sometimes people find like if they're doing a 16-8, they kind of just end up eating all through it, and that can end up being a lot of calories. So, which ultimately, that's what will put weight on, is too much food, basically. Okay, Beverly Shiarla. I have been fasting, and now I'm all happy, and I've lost 3 pounds since last week. Hey, that's great. That is fantastic. That's really, 3 pounds a week. Keep up doing what you're doing, and know that weight loss, it goes in a pattern like this, right? It's like, it's not going to be a straight line down. We all want it to be that, like, straight line down, but usually it's not. It's like, you go down, and then you might go up just a little bit, or maybe, weight loss kind of flatlines a little bit, and then it goes down, and then it goes up a little bit, and that's why I really like the 7-day average. If you just keep track of that, that will help you. It kind of smooths out those fluctuations that may happen to you. So that's great. Thanks for sharing that, Beverly. Sherry Oliver, Did you start with one meal a day, or did you work your way up? Yes. So I worked my way up very gradually, very, very gradually. So I really learned about intermittent fasting in 2014, and at the very, very end, so like December 2014. And so I started out, again, because I thought, okay, well, 14 hours is the max. So, but I started out even easier than that. I said, okay, I just need to start out with like setting a time boundary around food. So 8 hours. Okay, I'm going to just like 8 hours without eating, right? Which was sleeping, basically. Like I said, okay, I'm gonna stop eating by 10 o'clock, and I'm gonna not have breakfast until 6 o'clock. That's an 8-hour fasting window. And I know that's really, really short. And most people would say that's not even a fasting window. But it's about putting, rules in place for yourself and getting some discipline. And, before that, I mean, if you had looked at my eating, like there was no rules. So I might be eating at midnight, and I might get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And so I'm eating, a lot closer together than that. So then I started to push breakfast out a little bit later and a little bit later, just as I felt comfortable. And at a certain point, it was like, hey, I'm not eating breakfast till like 10:30. It's like, hey, all right. And then I pushed it a little bit later. It's like, oh, it's like 11 o'clock, and that was like a victory. And then eventually it was like, hey, that's basically lunch. So now I'm like skipping breakfast on purpose. And then I just kept going. And again, once I got to the 14-hour mark, I got really nervous. And amongst all of this, also, I'm trying to lose weight really fast. I'm getting frustrated because I'm like, oh, I'm not losing fast enough. But I knew with the intermittent fasting thing, I didn't want to go too fast. I didn't want to be too drastic with it or anything. I was really scared, actually, of intermittent fasting and metabolism and everything. And then, so by the end of 2015, I was really about ready to give up on weight loss. I was about ready to quit because I had only lost 15 pounds that year, and I had hurt my back like in the middle of the year. And I was just really frustrated. And but instead, in January of 2016, I said, I'm going to write down a simple plan. And at that point, I was probably at like a 16.8. I finally said, I'm going to start being a little bit more aggressive with my window. I wrote down my plan, which was intermittent fasting 6 days a week, cheat day on Sunday, walk 6 miles a day. And so I did that. And I pushed out my window a little bit further. And I was like, hey, I mean, the further I pushed it out, the better I felt, really. And so I got to like a 24. And then my kids got the stomach virus. And I was really afraid back then of the stomach virus. So I was like really germophobic. And so I couldn't eat. There was like about a week there where it just kept going. I never got sick, but I was so nervous that I was like, I could not eat until supper. I would just make myself eat like some supper. And but I dropped. I can't remember exactly how many pounds I dropped. I think it was like 5 pounds. That week, I thought, this is incredible. Like, I loved the pattern of it, first of all, because I could get so much done during the day. And so I said, okay, does anybody else do this? So I think I Googled, like, eat 1 meal a day. And I saw somebody say something about Omad, and I didn't even make the connection between 1 meal a day and Omad being, like, it's an acronym. So, but it said, hey, it was a thing that people do back in, thousands of years ago. This is how people would eat because they didn't have access to food all the time and all this stuff. I thought, hey, that makes sense. So I started doing it. And so that was about April of that year, I think. Yeah. And so that was April of 2016. So it took me probably, I'd say, a few months to get from like a 16.8, 18.6 down to 1 meal a day. And once I got down to 1 meal a day, I didn't want to go any further than that. I know some people do, but for me, that was really the maximum because of how weird that would be not to have at least 1 meal a day with my family. So that's why I did it like that. And then since that time, so I kept at 1 meal a day. until about November of 2016, I got down to 157. At that point, I said I'm going to maintain. During maintenance, I did all sorts of different like intermittent fasting windows and stuff. Like sometimes I do a 16/8, sometimes I do Omad, sometimes I do 2 meals a day, and I was just really loosey-goosey. I wanted to see like, hey, how strict do I have to be to keep the weight off? And I maintained within about 5 or 6 pounds during that time. When I started this YouTube channel, I decided I wanted to lose some more weight because I was still technically overweight by a couple pounds, like 3 or 4 pounds at that point. So I lost down to 142 or so, and then I decided to maintain again, and I decided to maintain in the 140s since then. And since that time, I do, depending, like right now, like I told you, I'm doing 2 meals a day. But yeah, so there we go. So yes, I definitely worked my way up. Let's see. Deborah, when you personally eat carbs at dinner, don't you crave even more carbs? I do well until I break my fast. But it's like the breaks and the cravings come flooding in. Let's see. So when I eat, so I wonder if you mean if I eat like a very, very carb heavy meal, no protein, no fat. Because I found for me, that was difficult the next day, not so much because I'm craving it, but because like I would just feel kind of nauseous. Like I found I did the best and I stayed the fullest if I had fat with it. So like pancakes was an example of a meal like that. Like if I ever did an Omad, which was rare, but if I ever did Omad and it was just pancakes, and I didn't have any butter on hand for some crazy reason, and I had syrup on that, that was not good. But otherwise, like the whole craving thing. So, because I eat carbs like all the time, so like I never crave, or I would say it's really rare for me to crave something because I just always let myself have it. So it's not like I ever say I'm going to cut back on carbs, or I'll eat some carbs. Like it's just whatever I want. And so like if I want spaghetti, I have spaghetti. So spaghetti's not like this off limits thing. Chocolate cake is not like this off limits thing. And so that in my experience has helped me to just not have those cravings. Like, because before when I would try to say, okay, you got to take it easy on, fill in the blank, bread. Ugh, like I love bread. So that only made me want to eat it more. Or if I said, you need to take it easy on chips, well then I want chips all the time. But nowadays, because now for the past how long is it? Since 2016, 2016 is when I said, absolutely, nothing is off limits. I don't even want to tell myself I need to take it easy on stuff. That's when I got the ability to just stop when I was full. And I mean, it took a while, but like the whole idea of like, I'm craving stuff, like it just went away. Like it just started to go away because I was really allowing myself to eat what I wanted to eat. So, yeah, so there you go. So I think I do really well with carbs, and I do well with, all of it, really. I mean, like I need carb. I think we all need carbs and protein and fat, like that's really when I feel the best, is if I'm not too heavy on any one of those. So, and thank you guys. I almost forgot. I don't know if you can see that I'm wearing my Donor C shirt. For those of you who have been keeping up with the fundraiser, in case you didn't see my post about it, the fundraiser is fully funded now. So those 2 pediatric CPAP machines for ELWA Hospital in Liberia, that's funded. They have ordered the machines. Nurse Margot Biggs did put an update up on DonorC. I love DonorC. I'm not paid by them at all. I just love the app. It's a way for you to give directly to people who are living in really impoverished situations, and you can do a lot of good on that little app. So anyway, there you go. So next question. Aggie Mom, thanks for answering my question. Great advice. Oh, great. We'll work on getting my steps in before lunch. I just resigned from teaching 2 weeks ago, so I need to adjust to my new normal. Well, congratulations on your new adventure in life, and working on getting your steps in before lunch, and just staying busy, and that's very exciting that you have this new adventure going on, new beginnings. Okay, Joanna Z. Hi, people usually link IF or intermittent fasting with the keto diet. Do you think that intermittent fasting might be actually less effective on regular or a carb diet? Okay. Oh, okay. I think I see what you mean. You mean like, would I have had faster results if I was on keto?
Say the question again. I think it cut out. At least it did on my end. So I don't know if everybody heard it.
Okay. So apparently the audio cut out, or the video did. So I'm going to reread the question. It's Joanna Z, and she asked, people usually link intermittent fasting with the keto diet. Do you think that intermittent fasting might be actually less effective on a regular carb diet? So in other words, like, so would you have better, faster results with keto? And I understand, yes, that is a very, very common thing that people usually, they just assume that if you're doing intermittent fasting, you're also doing keto. And I am not keto. I've never been keto. Keto, and it was a tough decision back in like 2015 because keto was super popular at that point. And I kind of thought it was like the only option in order to lose weight because, I was doing really heavy lifting, and I was doing really intense exercises. Like I was doing a CrossFit workout of the day and just really, really trying to work hard. And I was not losing weight quickly. And like I said, I wanted to lose like 5 pounds a week. And that was not happening. And of course, I heard a lot of people like talking about keto, and I never did it. And here's why. In 2014, when I've had enough moment, I just said, I've had it. I've got to lose the weight. I've got to figure this out. But I had to figure it out for good. Like I can't do the dieting thing anymore. Like this, lose the weight and then gain it right back. And so I tried during that time to really figure out what can I do? What can I actually do for the rest of my life if necessary? And I tried to keep myself from doing those unsustainable things. And so like Atkins, I guess, would be the like kind of the precursor to keto. I kind of done that like back when I was a teenager, I guess. But I hated it. Like I tried it for a while. I hated it. I hated the way I felt on it. I felt low energy, grumpy, just not good. Just in general, not good. Don't do well on it. And in addition to that, I also was watching the adherence rate that I saw of people who were doing keto. And just in my own experience, I was watching, they dropped weight fast. Yes, absolutely. They dropped weight. But then they just didn't stick with it. And I really didn't want that for myself. I really didn't want to drop a bunch of weight and then gain it back. I really kind of had this like premonition, I guess, that if that happened, I just wouldn't try anymore. Like I would just say, forget it. I just can't lose weight. So I was just kind of bound and determined to figure out how to eat normally, and not do some sort of like popular diet, like because I've been around, like my whole life I've been on the various diets, right? From the time I was like 6 years old, doctor put me on a diet, and just throughout the years I was on every single one that got popular at one time or the other. Zone diet, Atkins, they're like what, Sugar Buster, something like that, counting calories, and so I've seen that there's like this pattern, right? It depends on what decade you're talking about, but there's a bad guy, like carbs are the enemy. And then it's like, oh, fat's the enemy. And then it's like, well, maybe it's like a combination is the enemy. And so, or maybe it's just fake sugar is bad. And then it's, there's always an enemy. And so I just decided to stop, like thinking in that way. And I thought instead, I'm just gonna be grateful for every bite of food. So like whether that's a bite of white rice, or that's a bite of chicken, or that's a bite of butter. Not that I eat bites of butter very often, but so that is what I did, and that has served me well, I would say. Like, and if you're considering the keto diet, I think a good thing to ask yourself is, can I see myself eating that way long term? Do I already like those foods? If you already like those foods and that's basically what you eat anyway, it's kind of a non-issue, right? Like that's how you're already eating. If you're not currently eating that way though, I would ask yourself, why not? And behavior change is difficult. It just is. Like, and there's a lot of other factors too, like how do your friends eat? And because so many times I've seen people like they're trying to be on keto, but it's like they're constantly not on keto because their friends are not on keto, and it can just cause issues, I would say. So just look at your life, look at the foods you like, and see if that's a good fit. And if it's a good fit, then yeah, I would say go for it. But and then also doing it like, well, you said less effective, so maybe you mean just in general, like you just can't get the last pounds off without keto, but I don't think that's true. That's just my opinion. Okay, Amanda Hale, I struggle with not eating enough. I think I'm full and stop eating for the night, but then I get hungry at night to the point where it's hard to sleep. Yeah, okay, so that's interesting because I don't have that problem at all. Okay. Sorry, got some ice in my mouth. Okay. So I can eat a lot. So but my husband cannot. He is like, he doesn't eat real big meals, and so he needs to eat more frequently. So that's a difficult problem when you do feel like you're stopping because you're full, and then you're having trouble sleeping because I tend to be like that in that way. Like if I am hungry, it's difficult for me to go to sleep. And I would say if it's just a thing where basically intermittent fasting just won't work, like you're really truly the type of person who just can't go long in between meals without feeling bad, then I would say find a different plan. Intermittent fasting, just it's one of many different ways that will work for weight loss. Like I have talked to people who have lost 100 plus pounds, and you know how they did it? Eating 5 to 6 small meals a day, because it worked for them. And so I am certainly not of the opinion that like, oh, intermittent fasting is the holy grail of weight loss. It's what worked for me. It is great for my temperament and the way I like to eat and my life. But a lot of people find like, hey, they do better with small meals frequently throughout the day. That's they feel the best and they have the best weight loss results. So yeah, I would say experiment though, like really experiment. Because there is like this fine line you kind of have to walk, which is you want to be eating enough so that you stay full until your next meal, right? But you also don't want to be eating so much that you are maintaining the weight you're at. If you need to lose weight, one thing to look at would be, do you still need to lose weight? And so then, and because like what can happen is you're kind of, if you're eating too much, right? If you're eating too many calories, you're not losing weight, but you're sleeping well, right? Or you're not eating enough and then you're not sleeping well. That's not good either. You want to be sleeping well. That was always a, what do you call that? Benchmark for me or something. If I'm not sleeping well, something's off. So if I was not sleeping well at night, I always took that as a cue. I need to eat more at the meal. But if you're at that point where like I can't eat more at the meal because then I will be miserable, well, you might find, let's see, you didn't say if you're doing Omad or not. So maybe push your window a little bit later. Some people don't like that. I mean, some people's digestive system don't do well with like eating late or eating close to bedtime. I tend to do okay with it, but I know not everybody does. So So if it's a thing where you're actually hungry and that's what's making it hard to sleep, then I would look at maybe either just doing something different from intermittent fasting, or maybe pushing your window so that the eating is closer to bedtime. I mean, it depends. Like maybe you're eating at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, right? And then it's not working out. So that's one thing. And then also, if you find that you're still having trouble with sleep, I mean, I always, again, like nowadays, I've got the eating pretty much dialed in, so it's not a struggle of like, oh, I didn't eat enough and now I can't go to sleep. But if my sleep starts getting disruptive or I'm having trouble sleeping, I always take that as a sign like, okay, stressed out right now, something's going on, I need to probably talk things out with my husband or journal about things, because if you're not sleeping well, usually that's like some sort of little sign that something's just a little off. So hopefully that helps you, Amanda. Let's see. AJ 1985 says, I lost 23 pounds so far with intermittent fasting, thanks to you. Well, you did the work. I did not do the work, but plateaued for a month now. How do I reset and start losing weight again? Okay. Hang in there. That's the big secret of plateaus. Everybody has plateaus. Everybody. I think anybody who says they've never plateaued is just lying or forgetful. So, but a plateau, like I'm thoroughly convinced that sometimes your body just says, whoa, you're losing weight here, and I want to keep you alive for as long as possible. So we're just going to not lose any more weight for right now. And you just kind of have to convince your body, like, I'm just going to continue to do this. I understand that we're paused right now, but I'm going to continue being consistent because I really do want to lose some more weight. And then your body eventually says, okay, it looks like you're really sure. And then you start losing weight again. That's kind of the conversation I imagine. But I certainly experienced plateaus, like with Omad, even, like, you know, when I told you about how I lost like a chunk of weight, like 5 or 6 pounds when I first went to Omad that first week. I think I stalled out for another 4 to 5 weeks after that, like no weight loss. And, which was really surprising to me. I thought, hey, I'm only eating like 1 meal a day. Like, how on earth is this possible? But it just happens. But consistency, the thing that happens with a lot of people with a plateau is they start changing everything. They'll start pushing their windows. They'll make their eating window longer, and so they're eating more food, and then they're going to change up all their exercise, and maybe their appetite increases. And so all these things can start to happen. You're changing all these factors, and then what can be happening is you really are eating more. You don't think you are, but you're eating more, and then the scale continues to stall out, not because it would have continued to stall out if you had just kept it the same, but because you're eating more. So I am a fan of just doing nothing except stay consistent with whatever plan was working for you, and stay consistent for like 12 weeks. And I know, like, people are like, that's too long. I need the scale to move. But I would just keep it the same. That's what I did. That was always my technique. If the scale stalled out, I just kept going, and I just kept doing the same old thing. And every time the plateau broke. And there was always that temptation, though, to make it more difficult on myself, like to exercise harder, like to go from walking to running, or to go from eating 1 meal a day down to like once every 36 hours or something. But I just resisted the urge, and I'm really glad that I did that, because if I had made it more difficult for myself, I would have convinced myself that, like, oh, that was the thing that broke the plateau. But instead I was able to say, hey, this plan took me all the way down to this point, and that was really good. Like, I wasn't really sure when I went back to doing Omad consistently, would that take me any further? Because, you know, there were times I plateaued on Omad, so I kind of thought, I doubt that I'll really be able to continue to lose weight on that plan. But sure enough, I did. It was really slow, but it did happen. So it just takes time. Weight loss takes time. Like, it takes a long time. It takes longer than you think it's going to take. And there's probably going to be things that are difficult that you're going to have to deal with along the way too, that you probably won't expect, but you will get through it eventually. And you will just stick with it. just don't quit. That's the mistake that people make. They just quit, and it's like plateaus are especially mental. It's a mental game with plateau. If you can just hang in there. But great question. Thank you for asking that. Okay, and I'm gonna try Gretchenik. I hope that's right. How do you feel about wine with Omad? Oh, I love wine and I love Omad, so I love it. It's a great combination. I swallowed a piece of ice that time. So, wine, there's a couple of things to think about. So, I always allow myself to have wine whenever I want it. It's like it goes through seasons with me. Like I can't remember the last time I had a glass of wine. It's been a while. It's probably been several months now. But my sister owns a winery, Sweet Acre Farms Winery, if you're ever in the Northeast Georgia area. I love wine. I love to enjoy a glass of wine. But there are a couple of things to think about. So the first thing is that if you have been fasting for 24 hours, get ready if you just have a glass of wine, because if you're like me, if you're anything like me, it will really affect you quite quickly. And so drink slowly, a sip, and really I've found for me, it's better to go ahead and begin the eating process as then you start drinking the wine. If you drink a whole glass before your meal, you might just be surprised at how much it affects you, or at least that's the case with me. I maybe have a low tolerance, but yeah. Another thing with alcohol and food and all that good stuff is, for me, it also kind of what's the word? It disinhibits you, right? So whereas you may be pretty disciplined with yourself about, okay, when I start to feel full, I stop. Or when I'm eating, I try to eat slowly. But when you're disinhibited and you're just kind of like, oh, I don't care, then you can overeat, or you can eat really quickly, right? And therefore overeat. So those are two things to be careful of. I think that with while when you are just aware of that, just knowing that that's going to be a thing, we're only talking about a glass of wine here, so it's not like you're snockered or anything. You just remind yourself, okay, I'm having some wine right now, so I just need to eat slowly, and I need to pay attention to, am I feeling full? And then when I feel full, stop, because I don't want to feel overly full. That's miserable. Like nobody wants to feel that way, right? So just being aware. So yeah, those are the things. One other thing about wine. And it's, you're talking about Omad, but what I found for myself was if I had my wine after my Omad, so like let's say I had supper at 6, and then I decided to have a glass of wine like 8 or 9 o'clock with my husband after the kids are in bed. That was a little bit tricky the next day. I would feel a little bit nauseous. So I found if I had cheese or something with the wine, that was better. Now I was doing that during maintenance mode. I did not do the wine and cheese before bed when I was actually trying to lose. So yeah, but once I got down to a certain weight, I was just maintaining it. So I just wanted to maintain in that range. This is a little bit more laid back and loose. Okay, let's see, we got 12 more minutes. So 11 more minutes, Chase. Making me nervous. Okay. Okay. Next question. Oh, Joanna says, thank you. Your answer helps a lot. Oh, well, great. Also, in terms of calorie intake, when you practice OMAD or 2 meals a day, how do you make sure you consume enough calories and minerals and vitamins? Well, I am pretty laid back about all that stuff. As far as calories go, the thing that I assume is, well, if I'm maintaining a healthy BMI, they call it a normal BMI, then I feel like I'm getting enough calories. And I am. I would say I'm on the high end of normal, right? I'm not like on the low end. I'm not really in the middle. I'd say like I'm on the, maybe like mid to high. I don't know. But to me, then that tells me I'm taking in enough calories. And like I said, I've been doing I've been maintaining this since what would that be, like 2 years almost at this range. So I feel like calories, I'm good there. Minerals and vitamins, I don't get tested for that stuff, so I feel like if I ever start to show symptoms of some sort of deficiency, and my understanding, I mean, I was kind of worried about that in the very beginning of like intermittent fasting, because it's like, oh, this is different, and what if I do something wrong and all this stuff. So I kind of looked that up, and I looked up the symptoms of nutrient deficiencies, right? And so I said, okay, if I ever start to experience those types of symptoms, that's when I will get tested if I feel like there's some sort of like troubling symptom of some sort. I've never experienced anything, but I would definitely encourage you, if it's something you're worried about, or if you experience anything where you think, oh, I don't think I'm getting the right amount of vitamins of whatever, go talk to your doctor about it. Get tested if you need to. There are tests I know that will show you whether that's the case or not. So hopefully that helps you. And for the record, I don't really take any multivitamins or anything like that. Sometimes, just because it's in my cabinet and I don't like to waste things, I'll take there's like a Super B in there and vitamin D, I think. So I'll just, take that sometimes. All right, next question. Do you feel that exercise is necessary to lose weight? It's such a good question. I'm going to take a little drink of my tea. So, I think, okay, I actually did a podcast episode about this, and that's another thing. If you've never listened to my podcast, you can do so on my website, 6milestosupper.com/podcast, or you can get it on your favorite podcast player. Just search for 6 Miles to Supper. But I just did an episode about this. But, okay, so exercise. There have been plenty of people who've not done any exercise at all, and they've lost weight with intermittent fasting. Jim Caldwell, if I'm remembering his story correctly, he's got a fantastic success story you can check out. Maybe Jay will link to it in the chat. His story was fantastic, but he started out significantly obese. And I think the way he put it was like, basically he couldn't exercise. Like he just like was like physically unable to exercise in the beginning. And so he didn't. And eventually when he got down to a lower weight, he did start exercising. But the point is, like, when he had the most to lose, he was not exercising. I think that's right. I hope I'm not getting my stories mixed up. But so that's one thing. And I've talked to lots of people, lots of other people who it's like, I didn't really do any exercise at all. They just focused on fasting. And I think, my own personal opinion is, if you only can focus on one thing, focus on the fasting. It is the thing that actually will help you to lose weight. The thing about exercise is, if you're doing really difficult exercise and you're really working out hard, a lot of times your appetite increases because your body's saying, hey, you're burning lots of calories, you need to eat more. That's how my body talks to me, I guess. But the point is, it can kind of like cancel each other out, because if your appetite goes up and you eat just to be full, then it's kind of like it just cancels each other out. But I do walk 6 miles a day, right? So why do I do that? For a while there, I kind of thought, well, that's got to be a big part of it. Is like I'm burning calories, but I really don't think that's the case. I think because I certainly have experimented, especially when I was maintaining that first time. So when I was maintaining between 157 and 163, I had lots of days where I didn't do my 6 miles because I was just experimenting. I wanted to see, like, well, if I stop walking my 6 miles, I'm going to like blow up like a balloon, or what's going to happen? And no, I mean, I what I found though was I was cranky when I didn't walk. I just like, I am the type of person, I'm very sedentary if left to my own devices. Like I just am. Like I'm a reader, so I can sit there and read all day if given the opportunity. And I tend to be the type of person who like can research a lot, and I can just kind of like get in my own little world. And so if I don't have a step goal, like I don't move much at all. Like 1,000, 2,000 steps, that would be the norm. But that also makes me cranky. So in order to stay in a good mood, I continue to walk. And the thing about the walking is, so it's not just about the mood. The mood is important though. I would like to emphasize, if you're not in a good mood consistently, learn how to get yourself in a good mood. Just learn how to do it. Whatever you can think of to get yourself in a good mood. I don't care if it's listening to goofy music, or if it's listening to comedians that make you laugh, or if whatever it is that gets you in a good mood, get yourself in a good mood every single day. It will help you. It really, it helped me. I was in a big funk back in like 2014 or so, and I made that my priority, get yourself out of the funk. And so keeping myself in a good mood was really important. Another thing that exercise, and I use the term exercise to mean what I do, which is walk 6 miles a day. 6 miles a day. I do 6 days a week now. I take Sundays completely off from fasting and from walking. I mean, I don't, if I want to go for a walk, I will, but generally speaking, Sundays are just off days for me. That was a change I made this year. I thought, I'm going to see what I feel like on Sundays. So, but the walking helped me to not stressy and to not break my fast early, because like I said earlier, it's like, oh, I've got steps to get in, so that's what I can do instead of eat right now. So it was very, very, very important in the beginning, and continues to be important, I think, for just my mental health. Continuing to stay in a good mood, it helps me to think. A lot of times I'm coming up with podcast episodes and video topics, and like when I'm writing books, that's what I'm doing. Like when I'm walking, I am thinking. So there we go. Okay, we got 3 minutes left. LP asks, did you find it more difficult to eat, Omad, as you got thinner or closer to your goal weight? I'm about 5 to 10 pounds away from my goal weight, but finding myself having more hunger, and it's harder to do, Omad. Oh, so that's interesting. So did I find Omad more difficult? No. I'm a good eater. Like I feel like that's like one of my skills, is I can really eat a lot of food. And so, yeah, now, that being said, here is the difficult part, because as I got down closer and closer to like when I decided, okay, I'm done losing weight here, I started to definitely see that you have to eat less, right? You have to eat less in order to, well, you could move more, but again, you kind of get in that thing of, well, if you're moving more, then your hunger goes up. So as I started to see for myself, it's like, okay, I'm going to have to eat smaller and smaller portions in order to get to a lower and lower weight. So like once I got down to like 142, I was like, okay, like I don't notice a difference in my body really from like 142 all the way up to 157. The difference in my body, the difference in like what my face looked like, or in the mirror, what I saw, there was just not much difference. I just like from 222 down to 157, absolutely huge difference, like changed my life, right? But from 157 down to 142, I was like, not much of a difference that I could tell. And gosh, I'm probably the one that knows it the best, right? So the point is, I started to think, like I don't see the point in losing more, because it's like I'm gonna have to eat less and less and less, and then having to do that does mean that, and probably I would have experienced your problem more if I had wanted to get down into like the 130s, because I really would have had to shrink the portion size of the Omad in order to get the weight off, and then that would have also meant that it would have definitely made it harder to get to the meal the next day. That, or at least that's my hypothesis. So great question, LP. Again, depending on your goal weight, and I would say think about sustainability over the long term as opposed to just like the number, like getting married to that number, because sometimes what can happen is you start to see like, oh, well, you know, in order to do that, I'm going to have to do something that I don't really know that I could sustain for a long period of time. I'm a big fan of being sustainable. I mean, like for me, like I started, once I got to 142, I was like, just being in the 140s is where I'm comfortable. If I get up into the 150s though, that gets me close to that point where I'm like at 154, that's when I'm back in the overweight range, right? So I don't want to be there. I decided that for myself, like I don't like that, even though it's a technicality, you know. I don't know that my health changes dramatically, whether it's 140, you know, 154 or 153, or even between 154 and 144. But for me, I was like 140s, I'm good there. Like and for me, that's what worked. But anyway, for you, you know, you have to decide what is the range you want to be at. Okay, well, you guys, it is that time again where we have to say goodbye. So thank you guys so much for joining me. If you would like to be in our FPU class, Financial Peace University, you can use the link that Jay, I think, has posted in the chat. And it's going to be a small group of people. That it's like, I think it's limited to 10 people. And so if you would like to come join us and learn about you know, how to handle money, how to get out of debt, and change your life, changed our marriage, like I said before. It really has changed our life for the better since we've been through it back almost 10 years ago, I think. So thank you guys for joining me, and I will see you guys whenever I do another live.